Welcome back, guys, to another video, and today we're going to be talking about a game that we've been really looking forward to, and I'm joined here with my good friend, Devintoxicate, and this game we've been looking forward to playing for 2 years now. And what game is that?
Castlevania Lord of Shadows 2.
So let's go. Now, what's really interesting about Lord of Shadows 2 is there's a little bit of history with it when it comes to us, being friends. And why don't you kind of explain the viewers about Castlevania?
All right, my experience started 2 years ago when I moved out to Wilmington and I joined Rictus Grimm, our band. And I'd always talked about Castlevania Lord of Shadows. I was like, I've seen it on the shelves, but I didn't want to dish out the cash for it. And you were like, just here. Take my copy. And it was like, check it out, I don't know. And then I started playing it, and I just got captivated with Gabriel Belmont in Castlevania. And I was like, oh my god. 2 weeks, I badgered you about this game, and I knew you'd already beaten it. But it was like fresh for me, so I'm like, hey, blah, blah, blah. Hey, how's this doing? And you're like, just beat the game so we have more to talk about. And you're like, I wanted to tell you these things about this game.
Yeah, and what's funny is by the time you started playing the game, I had already beaten it, and they were already dropping the DLC and mentioning the sequel that we're talking about in this video, and that's Lord of Shadows 2. And it was that game was pushed back so many times.
Oh my.
It was pushed back so many times. I mean, I think it was like 3 times last year. I'm like, Lord of Shadows 2's coming out. Better get ready.
We got excited for it because I remember we both went to the same GameStop and we were like, midnight release, we're going to do this. It was, I believe it was December when we had pre-ordered it, and they were like, okay, we've got 2 weeks before the game comes out. Got pushed.
Yeah.
Both of us instantly were just like, all right, we need to get our money back for now and see how many more times this is going to get pushed back.
But they did come out with Castlevania Mirrors of Fate for the 3DS to kind of hold us over, and it was a good game. But I mean, like, this is definitely the game that we've been waiting for, and this really blossomed our friendship, and it had to have like a common interest other than playing music, of course.
Absolutely.
But getting into this game, and wow, wait till we tell you guys some of the gameplay. Now, before we dive and sink our fangs into the gameplay of Lord of Shadows 2, we have to talk about the beginning, when you first start the game. And one thing I like to say is when Lord of Shadows came out, I think a lot of people's gripe is it didn't feel like a Castlevania game. That it was just like, how is this Castlevania? And one of the things that I found out was it originally wasn't going to be a Castlevania game. It was just going to be Lords of Shadow. And what happened was Konami saw the similarities that Mercury Steam was doing with this game, and they were like, let's make this a Castlevania. Let's make this the 3D Castlevania that fans have been wanting. And so they added a little bit more to it. And they added the whole Castlevania. They made Gabriel into a Belmont, and they changed some of the story. But when you start Lord of Shadows 2, this is a Castlevania game.
Absolutely. There's so many references just to older Castlevania games that have come out previously, and it makes you feel like you are Dracula. Like, there is no doubt about it in your mind when you put this game in and you start it up. You are none other than the dragon, Dracul.
See, he always spoils things. You spoil it.
I'm not a spoiler.
I'm just kidding. Because if you haven't played Lord of Shadows, if you haven't played any of those, when you play Lord of Shadows 2, it tells you the whole story. So, I mean, unless you've been living under a rock, yes, Gabriel Belmont is Dracula. Which, I mean, that's something new in Castlevania. We have never played as the Dark Prince of vampires, Dracula. And, yeah, they added, references to, like, Symphony of the Night. And I think one of my favorite parts was in the beginning of the game where you're battling the giant like wooden mech, and you're battling like the golden angel knight, and he's just like, die monster, you do not belong in this world. And once Gabriel opens up those doors and he looks at the carnage and the war of this Christian Brotherhood of Light crusade
He's
coming
just
towards
like,
him.
what is a man?
I mean, dude, when I heard that, that just gave me complete goosebumps.
Yeah, the tutorial is just like in your face, non-stop action, and
Yeah.
it's such a good game. I mean, for me especially, it gave me everything I've been looking forward to
Yeah.
over the past 2 years since playing Castlevania Lords of
It's
Shadows.
getting a cramp in my leg here, guys. I'm getting old.
But yeah, I mean, it has fulfilled every aspect that I've looked forward to in this game. And it's got some things that could be tweaked, I mean, as far as camera angles, but I mean, what can you do?
We'll definitely get into that with some of the gameplay.
Okay.
Definitely. One of the most important things of a video game,
Gameplay.
the gameplay. I mean, this game could look so freaking beautiful, could have the majestic music of gods and goddesses, but if the game sucks, the game sucks. And, Lord of Shadows, the first one, had its...
It had its downsides.
Yeah.
And there was definitely a lot of things that were needed to be worked on.
Yeah, I mean, they had that whole fixed,
horrible.
the fixed camera made platforming like a huge job, and they fixed it. In Lord of Shadows 2, they fixed it. I mean, you have a little more control, Gabriel. Of course, since he's a Belmont, he has a whip sort of character.
It's his own rendition of the whip. It's because he used it for so many years. It's now a blood whip. He uses his own blood as a whip, which I thought was awesome. It's embedded in his brain, even though, he lost his humanity and became Dracula, it's still embedded in his mind to use the whip.
Yeah, so he's got the whip. He's also now, since he went through all those tribulations, the Lord of Shadows, and gained and became the bad guy, that he has powers now, like the Void Sword, which is one of my favorite power-ups. It's so badass.
For me, the Void Sword is... I mean, yeah, it gives you life, and it's cool, but mine are the claws. You can't go wrong with claws.
Yeah.
I mean, you use them to, like, beat people's armor off.
Yeah,
and you,
I
you can
thought
just,
that was cool.
It is... I don't know, it is what it is.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
It's cool. I mean, it's like his hands, like, glow, and he's, like, knocking shields out of knights' hands, or, stuff like that. And I think they did a great job adding power-ups, but still feeling like, he's a Belmont.
Right.
It wasn't just like, hey, he's Dracula now he can do all these things. But with him becoming Dracula, they did add something to this game that a lot of people are not too excited about, that really throws your mind off, and that is stealth.
Yeah, I've read a lot of reviews, and to an extent I can agree with some of the reviewers. I don't particularly like doing stealth missions. I feel as though it's kind of beneath the gaming generation now, as far as my own opinion goes. I'm not a big stealthy person. I mean, you're Dracula. You shouldn't have to just like...
You shouldn't have to hide in the shadows.
Yeah.
I mean, he turns into a swarm of rats, and I didn't tell you this before we started filming, but didn't it kind of make you think of Arkham? Like Batman Arkham a little bit?
It really did. I mean, like you were saying, one of the stealth missions that is like right there in the beginning, you have to turn into a rat and work your way around and view your surroundings, and then go back, and then possession. And that's how
you possess people, and then you can throw like a swarm of bats, and they're like, oh god, there's bats, I don't know what to do right now.
You just become like Dracula with Batman powers.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of... I mean... They're trying to do something different. I get it.
It makes it interesting, I'll give them that, because even though it's kind of bad, it still has some interesting plot points for being stealthy.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, without giving spoilers away, I can't really say a lot, but, yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, And of course, everyone compares this game to God of War. They're like, oh, it's like God of War. Which honestly, it doesn't bother me, because when I first played God of War back in like 2006 or 7, I said to myself, I want a Castlevania game like this. So I don't care.
Yeah,
it's fun.
To me, I'm a little hurt that some people out there would compare it to God of War, because they're two completely different games. Like, in God of War, you're Kratos. Castlevania, you're Dracula. And Gabriel Belmont.
That's
and
the best. That's the best.
Yeah, I mean, like,
that's the best way to say it.
I mean, you can't say it any other way, and it's just, it hurt my feelings, because I'm like, no, you can't compare. You can compare games, but not say
it's in the same genre.
Yeah.
It's like saying that a turn-based RPG is just like another Final Fantasy, when that's not necessarily the case. They have little things that give them their own flair, and it's not too bad.
It hurts.
It hurts.
I mean,
it makes
hurts.
them sad. Now, we've mentioned earlier that we're not done with this game, so I thought before we close this video, we kind of talk about our predictions. What we think is going to happen in Lord of Shadows 2.
Yeah, right after the tutorial, Zobek makes his appearance at the end of Castlevania Lords of Shadows, the prequel to Lords of Shadows 2, and he says, I need your help, and throws him out into the streets.
Yeah.
And now you're kind of just like having to gain back Dracula's power. And Zobek's still kind of that mysterious wild card. Like, you want to believe he's going to help you, but...
Yeah, and if you guys aren't familiar with Zobek, he's pretty much the guy that was helping out Gabriel in Lords of Shadow. He was like the head of the Brothers of Light, and you find out that he's actually Death.
Right.
And he was actually using Gabriel to do all these things to battle Satan.
And it's kind of just like, after knowing what happens in the first one, and he comes back in the second one, and he's like, hey friend, I want your help again, but in order to do this, I need you to go fight Satan's children. And you're kind of just like, what? Just come on, man, you can't be this evil all the time.
And that part kind of makes you think of, like, man, it's like the same song, same dance. Is he going to be betrayed again? Zobek's going to be like, well, thanks for helping me again, buddy. You get screwed.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
But then you've also got Alucard, who's also Trevor Belmont. And in this version, Alucard isn't very much a big character at this point in the beginning of the game. Because neither one of us, again, have made it very far. But Trevor's now a child, and there's this relationship that Gabriel's having with his son all over again after just finding out, Mirrors of Fate into Lords of Shadows 2. It's kind of like, what?
Yeah, and there's a lot of questions. Like, I think it's going to be a lot of like diving into Gabriel's mind, and going back in the past and finding out more and more. And I mean, that's what really makes this game interesting, is because they really, in my opinion, I think they did a great job doing a successful reboot.
Absolutely.
Because they really took the Castlevania mythology and they've turned it around a little bit, and they still have the meat and potatoes of it. But at the same time, they've added something different, like playing as Dracula, seeing that other side, and
it's interesting.
Yeah,
it's just I wish they would explain what happens to certain characters a little more, because they kind of just cut out.
We gotta play the game more.
Well, that's true too. But I'm just saying, at this point, I'm a little bit further ahead of you, because
I've been playing Final Fantasy 14. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, we'll make another video for that one, but I want to know what happened to Simon. Like, I know Simon's not a major character in this game, but I would like to know, where'd he go? What happened to him? Does he have children too? Does he have a child? So on and so forth, because they don't really explain what happens to Simon. Even when you start the game, they say, oh yeah, here's Trevor, he's still alive, but Simon's just kaput.
Oh, we might find out. So anyway, guys, this is some of our first impressions of a game that we've been really wanting to play for a long time. And so far, Devin, what do you think of it? Like, if you had to tell the viewers, these guys that are watching us right now,
Those people.
yeah, those, especially that guy. That guy's a dick.
All right.
What would you tell them?
If I had to rate the game between 1 and 10, I'd give it an 8.5, just because it's a captivating storyline. It rips you right from the beginning, throws you in there. I just play the game. Just play the game. Just go out to the store right now, pick it up. If you don't, ask a friend to borrow it. Just play it. That's all you got to do.
Yeah,
It's fun.
And I think it'll be it'll be a game that the value, the price of it's going to drop after a while.
Right.
There's no doubt, because it's not an online game or anything like that. So if you're unsure about it, give it about a couple months. By then there'll probably be hopefully some DLC to expand the story. And I know Mercury Steam's going through some financial problems, but I mean, I'm not going to get into that. But they're getting through some drama with this game. But so we might see Lord of Shadows 3. I don't know. I haven't beaten the game, so I don't know where it's going to go from now. But I highly recommend it. I'm a huge Castlevania fan. I always tell people they can make a Castlevania ping pong ball game, and I would play it. I mean, I just love the series that much.
They could do anything with Castlevania and you'd buy it.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I even have Castlevania Judgment on the Wii, and that game's horrible. So. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and as always, happy gaming.